Hey everybody, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring American versus British English,
Ooh,
focusing on greetings and introductions.
fun.
And we'll be looking at this really interesting 20-minute script that is actually designed for accent practice.
Okay.
We're going to be doing a deep dive into it to look at those subtle signals, those greetings,
Yeah,
introductions, the subtle signals they send, and how those shape first impressions and communication styles.
exactly. And it's amazing how much we can reveal about ourselves just through those initial greetings.
Yeah.
It's almost like a handshake.
Yeah, like a linguistic handshake.
Yeah, you set the tone for the whole interaction.
Exactly. So let's jump right in with the basics.
Okay.
This script lays out classic greetings like the American "Hi, how are you?" and the British "Hello, how do you do?"
Yes.
And right away, you see that contrast between American casualness and that British formality.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to get your take on it. Is it just formality, or is there something deeper at play here?
Well, the British emphasis on formality, I think, has deep historical roots.
Okay.
You think back to like Victorian era and all the etiquette that came with that time.
Right, all those very strict social structures.
Exactly. And so that emphasis on, properness and politeness
Yeah.
has carried through even to today.
Interesting.
So even a simple hello, how do you do
Yeah.
carries this weight of tradition and social expectation.
That makes total sense. So it's not that Brits are trying to be distant or cold. They're really just adhering to that script.
Right,
That
exactly.
cultural script that values that decorum.
Yes.
Oh,
Now, on the American side, you have that culture that prizes egalitarianism and informality.
right.
And, think about the frontier spirit and melting pot of cultures.
Yeah.
People needed to connect quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
So that, hi, how are you? It cuts to the chase and really prioritizes friendliness and that approachability.
Yeah, it's like a fast track to
Yeah.
connection. You're skipping all those formalities to get right to the heart of the matter.
Yes.
But do you think that sometimes leads to misunderstandings, especially when Americans and Brits are interacting?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine an American just, greeting a British colleague with a loud, what's up?
Right? Or
The Brit might be very taken aback.
like, whoa.
Yeah, and think it's very familiar or even rude. And the same way an American might perceive a Brit's reserve as being cold or standoffish. It's really all about understanding that cultural context.
Yeah, for sure. So how do we even begin to navigate these cultural differences? Are there any clues in this script that can help us kind of decode those cues?
Yes, actually, the script contrasts the American how's it going
Okay.
with the British you all right.
You all right?
And to an American ear, that might sound like a genuine question about well-being.
Yeah.
But in British English, it's much more casual.
Oh,
It's more akin to how's it going?
so you're telling me if a British person asks me, you all right? I shouldn't launch into a story about,
Probably not.
my recent illness or something.
A simple, yeah, fine you would suffice.
Okay.
It's all about listening for those subtle cues.
Right.
The tone, the context to understand the meaning.
So much is being communicated under the surface.
Absolutely.
Wow. So I'm really itching to try out my American and British accents here.
Okay.
How do these phrases actually sound different?
Well, one of the key things that the script highlights is the R sound.
Okay.
Americans tend to pronounce R's very clearly, especially at the end of words.
Yeah?
So think about the American pronunciation of car.
Car.
Exactly. It's like reeling off the tongue.
It is.
Now, in British English, that R at the end of the word often softens or disappears completely. So car becomes more like ka.
Ka. Okay.
And this difference you'll see applies to many words and phrases.
So how are you? In American English, it's almost like, how are you? And then the British version is more like, how are you?
You've got it.
Wow.
And this difference in R pronunciation is just one example.
Okay.
There are also variations in vowel sounds and intonation
Right.
and the way certain words are stressed.
Yeah.
But we can delve into those phonetic details later.
Okay, sounds good.
For now, let's maybe shift our focus to how these cultural and pronunciation differences play out in formal introductions.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so we've talked about those initial greetings, those casual like hellos and how are yous that set the stage
Right.
for an interaction. But what happens when things get a little more formal? How do Americans and Brits handle those more structured introductions?
Well, the script definitely offers some insights into that.
Okay.
And you'll find that those cultural and linguistic differences that we've been discussing, they become even more pronounced
Okay.
in those settings.
Yeah, I can see that. Think about those times when you're meeting someone for the first time in like a professional setting, or maybe you're being introduced to a friend's family.
Exactly.
The stakes feel a little higher, right?
Yes, you want to make a good impression.
Yeah, present yourself well.
Right.
And it seems like Americans and Brits approach this with different styles.
They do.
Yeah.
Let's look at an example from the script.
Okay.
In a formal American introduction, you might hear, "Good morning. My name is Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Sarah, I'm John Gettin. Nice to meet you too, John."
Very straightforward.
Yes, very efficient.
Establish names, exchange pleasantries, you're good to go.
Exactly. Now contrast that with the British version.
Okay.
"Good morning. I'm Sarah. Pleased to meet you.
Okay.
Sarah, my name's John. Lovely to meet you too, John."
Lovely to meet you.
Did you notice the shift in word choice?
Yeah. Instead of nice to meet you, it's pleased to meet you.
Right.
Or even lovely to meet you.
Exactly. It feels much more formal.
It does. A little more elegant, I would even say.
And that's a deliberate stylistic choice.
Okay.
In British culture, formality is often seen as a sign of respect, especially in settings where hierarchy and tradition are still valued.
Yeah.
So pleased to meet you conveys a sense of deference.
It's almost like the language itself is bowing,
Yeah.
Acknowledging the interaction and the person you're meeting.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just the words, it's also the delivery.
Right.
British English in formal settings often uses a softer, more modulated tone.
Interesting. So while Americans might project warmth and enthusiasm
Right.
through volume, Brits convey respect and consideration through a more subdued tone.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how small differences create such distinct impressions.
It is, and these variations go beyond greetings.
Okay.
The script also points out differences in how Americans and Brits might ask questions.
Okay, like what?
An American might directly ask, "Are you new here?"
Direct to the point.
Now, a British person might phrase it as, "Are you new to the team?"
New to the team. That's
Subtle difference, but it reflects that British emphasis on group cohesion and subtly acknowledges the existing hierarchy within the team.
So Brits are thinking about those social dynamics.
Yes, very much so.
It's like they're playing linguistic chess.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And remember, this isn't about being stuffy.
Right.
It's a different cultural script for expressing politeness.
Yeah, it's about understanding those different scripts.
Yes.
To navigate those waters. So beyond recognizing words and phrases, what other clues should we be paying attention to?
Well, that leads us to nonverbal cues.
Body language.
Exactly. The way we stand, our facial expressions, tone of voice, eye contact.
It's all part of the message.
It is. It's like a secret language.
And those nonverbal cues can vary between cultures.
Absolutely.
So while this script gives us a great foundation,
Yes.
we have to remember that real-life interactions are more complex.
Right. We need to engage all our senses.
Yeah.
Not just listen to the words, but the tone, the pacing, the unspoken cues.
We're like detectives looking for clues.
Exactly.
In every gesture, every inflection.
And the more we pay attention to those details, the better we become at understanding those codes.
Decoding the matrix.
Yes.
Yeah.
But maybe it's time we shift our focus to the listener
Okay.
and their experiences with these differences.
So we talked about all these greetings and introductions,
Yeah.
but now I want to hear from you, the listener.
Yes.
What has stood out to you most?
Yeah. Any aha moments?
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
have you had any experiences where a greeting or introduction just felt off?
Yeah, like maybe there was a disconnect in the tone or the
Yes.
formality.
Yeah. And those moments can be awkward,
They can't.
but they're also great learning opportunities
They are.
because it highlights those cultural differences we've been talking about.
Exactly. And it reminds us that communication is a two-way street.
Uh-huh.
We need to be mindful and adaptable.
Yeah, it's like when you travel to a new country
Right.
and a gesture you've always used suddenly means something completely different.
Oh, yeah.
It's humbling, but also a chance to learn,
Yes.
to broaden your perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
as you become more aware of these subtle differences,
Yeah,
you can start to adjust your own communication style
that's a good point.
and better connect with people from different cultures.
Yeah, and it's not about erasing your own way of speaking.
Right.
It's more about expanding your repertoire.
Exactly.
So you have different tools.
Yes, a linguistic toolkit.
Yeah, and you can choose the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
So one final thought before we wrap up.
Okay.
Do you think the way we greet each other actually influences how we perceive one another?
That's a good question.
Like if you changed your usual greeting style, what impact would that have?
I think even those small choices, the words we use, our tone,
Yeah.
can have a big impact.
It's like setting the tone.
Right. A warm greeting can create instant connection.
Yeah.
A formal one might signal respect.
Right. So it's about being intentional with our communication.
Yes.
Recognizing every interaction shapes the dynamic.
It does.
Well, it's been a really fun deep dive.
It has.
Into the world of greetings and introductions.
Yeah.
So as we go out into the world, let's pay attention to those cues.
Yes.
Experiment with different greetings and see how those choices shape our connections.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy communicating, everyone.
See you later.